We have offered thousands and thousands and thousands of classes on just about everything you can think of, and some things you probably would never think of, in the course of our existence.
The first brochure, I believe, had about 7 courses, and the theme of it was anyone can teach, anyone can learn. And that was written across, and there was a stick figure drawing that said, "Stimulated by your education," with a question mark.
The concept of a larger definition of how do people learn and who should be a teacher, all of those things were sort of getting born.
UFM started through a movement that was happening in the 1960s, where there was more student unrest on campus. There was a lot of need to share ideas, and the students wanted to do it outside of the traditional walls of the university.
We were concerned about the war, and we were concerned about alternative lifestyles. Running parallel with everything in this period when I'm here is the feminist movement is getting born.
Minority people, the Black community was starting to speak out and look at their power and the potential for themselves having more influence in a community.
Here comes Martin Luther King to speak, K-State. Robert Kennedy came and spoke here. And to some degree, even Nixon chooses to come here. And for the first time, we are so organized that we think we can block most of the highways for Nixon to get here. And so they drop him in by a helicopter. So that was all here.
Students were invested in their lives, and yet they couldn't vote. And they wanted to have a voice in their higher education. They wanted to have a voice in government, how the universities were run. So there was a lot of ferment going on.
And so the Free University movement was born. It created opportunities to share learning and ideas with each other on a level playing field. So the 6-year-old might be teaching a university professor kind of idea. Students and faculty were working together. And they weren't interested in grades or being evaluated. They just wanted to learn and to share their ideas for the sake of learning.
The university was for all people. Man happened to be at that point the common word that indicated everyone, that you didn't have to pay high tuition. What your grades were like in high school or what you chose to pursue wasn't as important as having a quest for knowledge and sharing that information. So they called it the University for Man.
There are several different ways for people to learn, and there are several different teachers without PhDs. And there is a whole lot of learning that we bypass because we don't call it learning. And all of a sudden the Free University was prepared to say, there are so many teachers and there's so many students, and they need to be all ages, and they need to be on all subjects. And so the Free University was an invitation. You have something to teach. If there are people eager to learn, let's put you together.
For a while, there were many of them across the United States, but UFM at that time was one of the leaders in what was happening with the free universities in the late 1960s, and one of the few that has continued to thrive even into the new century. From its founding, UFM has been considered a special project and ultimately a department in the Division of Continuing Education, now called Global Campus. But UFM also is a private nonprofit, and that has allowed us to reach out into the community and across the state to expand the mission of what we do. The idea is that everyone can learn and everyone can teach. Our instructors have ranged in age from 6 to 98, and we don't turn people away. We get classes by people coming to us and saying, I would like to teach this. We also have people who call us and say, I want to learn this, and we'll try to find a teacher. Our classes tend to be practical. They tend to be a little shorter in length so that you can get in and learn what it is you want to know now. So we have our non-credit program and we have our credit program. Sometimes they overlap because sometimes we have credit and non-credit students learning together. We offer about 250 classes every semester, and we do everything from first aid CPR for credit, recreational things like archery, fitness classes of all varieties. We also do dance, and we offer classes on arts and hobbies. We did a class that's been very popular for a long time on how to build a brick oven for your yard. We had an outreach program where they wanted to put a sidewalk in front of the art center. So they taught a class on how to put in a sidewalk. And so everybody that's in the class built the sidewalk for the art center as their learning experience. So, you know, all those kinds of things are fun. They work on community development ideas, and everybody learns from the process. UFM, as part of our mission, is to be a catalyst for new programs and ideas that enhance what's going on in the community. And not just what happens in Manhattan, but also working with other communities in the area and really across the state. And if for no other reason than to get together to be less alone, I think we need to continue offering classes that are live, on site, where you can learn from each other.
For me, the gardening is therapeutic, but the people I know out here are more therapeutic.
As you sort of labor in your plot next to someone, you have to strike up conversations and talk about where you came from and what you're doing and so forth. And so the social aspects have been probably as important as some of the gardening aspects. When I first came to Manhattan, UFM was sort of in its infancy, and there were a lot of requests of UFM to have classes dealing with gardening. And then a recognition that there were a lot of people that didn't have space for a garden.
We are very well known for our earth and nature classes. That's a whole nother side of what UFM is about with our community garden and solar energy education and activities that we do.
And we were able to identify a spot locally for that. And UFM, because of its involvement in those classes, became a sort of a key player in organizing and operating those community gardens initially, and have continued for over 40 years. The Riley Lane garden, the original garden, was in an area of town that was rather economically depressed. The location where the garden's located now originally was the city dump. And most people, if you described the location, they said, well, that's the dump, even though the dump had long since disappeared, wasn't there anymore. But most of the local people associated that. It actually was sort of a blessing in disguise because the soil was excellent, some good Kansas River Valley sandy loam soil. And it was an area of town that very quickly after the urban renewal project began, started growing. It did provide a lot of people with a space to garden. And it's been interesting to see people that came with a very, very limited amount of knowledge in a real short period of time have become experienced gardeners.
When you go grocery shopping and you go to the produce department, and if you see a person buying zucchini in the summer, you know that person doesn't have a friend who gardens. What you see here is prepared gardens. You need to pan over and take a look at the area that looked like a forest over there, because that's what we started with out here. We had a 10-acre allotment out of a 33-acre site that was chest high in weeds and full of heavy growth timber. Now, maybe Collins Lane might be the preferred site to garden. There are things grown out here that you've never heard of before, and you got to try them. A bitter root or something of that nature. I couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle my okra either, so we're even.
There's been a lot of emphasis in terms of healthy eating, and certainly garden plays right into that. There's been a lot of emphasis in local foods, keeping the food closer to the place that it's grown, and certainly the gardens relate to that. There's been a lot of interest in obesity and human health, and certainly the nutrition and the exercise that you get in gardening deals with that issue very well. So I think that the gardens will be here for a long time.
We're the oldest community garden in Kansas and one of the longest continuous running gardens west of the Mississippi. So we've been around for a while, and we're going to continue a lot longer.
We have continued to see growth in the gardens, and I think we'll continue to see slow, measured growth. We have lots of land available here, so we can plow up another acre and put in some more plots.
All of this stuff was very experimental, and UFM made it possible. It was kind of a situation where if it was a little bit too risky for the university to be involved in it, it would happen over here.
UFM has been interested in environmental issues and energy issues for a very long time. The first visible sign of that was the federal energy grant that was received back in the late 70s to create the passive solar building, which we call the greenhouse, that is right next to the main house at UFM. Our greenhouse is totally accessible, so wheelchairs can get in there, and UFM has participated with the K-State Horticulture Therapy program for a long time, as well as offering the space for not only gardeners who want to start seeds there, but as a special program with the Mental Health Center here and with Big Lakes Developmental Center to provide the space to be able to do that, because greenhouse space is also at a premium in our community, and that's what it's there for.
When they asked me to come in and design and put in the photovoltaic system here, I think it was really, again in the tradition of UFM, was being very adventurous in doing that, because it was still very expensive, and it was kind of something that was still part of the tradition of UFM, but a new side of solar energy.
Yeah, it was kind of a big deal. I had the opportunity to write a grant to do some upgrading, and as part of that process, we put in solar panels. They generate anywhere from 10 to 40% of our electricity. We were the first small organization in Kansas that actually was on the grid. As a result of that, there has been the development of a solar energy co-op that has started here in Manhattan.
We started with a group it was a class on sustainability. And so they were looking for ways that we could start inspiring Manhattan to become more sustainable, to take this up as an initiative.
And the way that program works is people who are interested in learning and having solar panels put up on their houses will come to a couple of classes, learn what solar is all about, and if they are truly interested in having panels put on their homes, they do a bulk buy, just like a co-op, and then they do like a barn raising, and volunteers come out and they have certified electricians there to make sure that it's all safe, but they install the panels together. It's a very interesting and very UFM-like concept.
As far as solar energy in Manhattan, it's absolutely going to come. And I think we've had our share and an input in making that happen faster than it would have ordinarily. So I think the future of solar energy in Kansas is, in all of the United States, and in fact in the world, is very bright.
I love trees. Trees are awesome. But when I see a forest, I see bowls, I see bottle stoppers, wood pens, hollow forms, art pieces, all of that kind of stuff. And making is so much fun. When you can make something, it's a whole different lifestyle, rather than just doing. Making is cool. wood turning is kind of my thing. I do that, and I think I do it pretty well. So coming to Manhattan, starting a wood turning club here, I thought, well, how do we get new people involved in the craft? So one of the ways I thought I could do that was by teaching classes. Have people come in, take a class on how to turn a bowl. At the end, they have a bowl and a newfound interest in a process that they had never thought of before. Most students that sign up at UFM have no experience whatsoever. They've never done this. They read about it in the UFM catalog, make a wood bowl. Oh, well, I wonder how we do that. Okay, sounds like fun, let's sign up. So I start out sitting right here, talking about safety, talking about the lathe, talking about the tools we use, talking the woods we can use, and generally, building the platform on which we're going to start. Then, all day long, we stand at the lathe and, shape this wood. And I mean, you have to be careful. You have to be thinking ahead. What are you going to do? Somebody asked a sculptor, how do you make a porpoise out of this tree trunk? And he said, well, you just cut away everything that doesn't look like a porpoise. Okay, well, I cut away everything that doesn't look like a bowl, okay? or whatever I'm doing, and really make something out of it that is more than it might have been. You don't want to go through life not doing anything that anybody cares about. So people have jobs for which they get paid. They usually get a sense of worth from their job, a sense of satisfaction in doing a good job. But there's a certain satisfaction, I think, to making something. Even a simple bowl, moving the tool through the wood, seeing the shavings come off and arc out and onto the floor, and just seeing it unfold. For an organization to reach out into the community and find people who know something about different subjects and be able to bring those together and meld them into an organization that offers classes to the local citizenry is awesome. If someone doesn't know something and you are in a position, time-wise, physically, knowledge-wise, expertise-wise, to be able to share something with someone else that they might really find enjoyable, what a great deal of pleasure that is. And at the end, to see the light in their eyes at the end when they hold up the bowl that they've made themselves for the very first time, I love that. I love that feeling.
There needs to be a place that is safe, where you can get together and really share how you really feel about something.
If you let people gather, they'll educate each other, and they'll push themselves a lot further than you generally give them credit for. And so this hunger for learning, I think that Free University met that need.
UFM really provided a format, a place where your questions, your ideas could be brought forward. It's just finding people's heart and their love and giving them a place to express it.
Let's get together and talk about things that matter. And what is the magnet for that? It's the subject. If people show up, then it matters. And it didn't matter if it was 6 or 60. I mean, that was really fascinating, I think, and was impressive.
We need everybody to continue to participate and to share your voice and your ideas of what you want to see happen in the future of UFM. What's important to you?